Hello everyone, it's Mark. I am the Sanderson Collector, and today I am here with CJ Norris and Michael Bahnmiller from the Black Piper. And if y'all don't know about the Black Piper, they made the Kaladin music album, which is an album of music from The Way of Kings, or music, I guess, themed for a movie soundtrack for The Way of Kings, with many awesome tracks on there. And if you want to get the CD, it is for sale on their website. Links will definitely be in the description. And in addition to this, when they ran the Kickstarter for this music album, they also put together a really cool art book, which I put out a video about last week, which you can check out in the corner up here, talking about all the awesome stuff that's in there. And now they're launching into another project where they're making a music album for the Lightbringer books, or at least the first one, by Brent Weeks. Future Mark here with two notes to add to this video before we get started. The first one is that CJ is sadly no longer attached directly to this project, although her fingerprints are all over it. A lot of her planning has still gone into the campaign. And the other one is that the campaign is being run on Backerkit and not Kickstarter. It is still a crowdfunding campaign and works much the same way. It's just on a different platform. So whenever you hear us use the word Kickstarter, just think Backerkit Campaign. And that's all from Future Mark. So without further ado, here are Michael and CJ.
Michael Bahnmiller from the Black Piper. I'm the owner and lead composer for the Black Piper, and also producing the upcoming Lightbringer soundtrack. I was trying to think of what we were calling it now. The Black Prism Volume 1 of Lightbringer.
And I'm CJ Norris. I'm the former producer, former owner of the Black Piper. I co-founded that with Michael. I stepped back and let him do all the busy work, and now I am the creative director, and I moonlight as producer, but pretty much Michael handles most of the logistics. So I'm in charge of all the creative decisions, from the artwork to the music to the commercial designs and everything that kind of, I'm the one that spearheads that and kind of organizes it, and then people like Michael make it happen. So I'm just the ideas person.
So yeah, these are CJ and Michael, and they're running a Kickstarter right now for their album for the Lightbringer series. And as someone who is a major Sanderson reader, and I'm sure many of my viewers are, is the Lightbringer series for fans of Sanderson?
I would say we have a lot of crossover on our Discord channel. Most of our fans, there's a lot of crossover. I can say the similarities between the two, the dialogue is very snappy, very sharp, very witty. So those two have that in common. The setups and payoffs as far as structure goes, Brent's work is tight. He can do what we call the Sanderlanche, the third act avalanche that Sanderson is known for. I discovered on my first read. I'm new to Brent Weeks as well. This is now my like 30,000th read of the Black Prism. But when I first read it, he can do the Sanderlanche as well. He is great at a third act avalanche because he uses every word. And it is so intense and so fun. And then when you go back and reread it, you discover so many layers to his work. So I think in that regard, there's so much like similarities that Sander fans really like to have. Like there's always another secret, and there's always that intense ensemble. The battle sequences are insane. We're doing I'm calling it a 40-minute battle sequence. It's like one of those things in a movie that it would be like a 40-minute battle, and there's so much going on. But by that point, it's very clearly written. What I've noticed with Brent's work versus Brandon's work With Brandon's work, you tend to latch on to a favorite character or two or three, and then you just kind of want to glaze over and kind of skip parts until you can get back to your favorite character. You're like, no, I want to get back to so and so that I was reading. And Brent, he changes point of view every chapter. And at first, it's like, dude, like, I can't keep up. Like, I can't sit with these characters. But after a little while, I get into the rhythm of it. But what I've noticed, I don't mind who I'm with. All of his characters are charismatic and complex, and there's no dwelling because he's so fast paced with his chapters. It's a pretty quick read. I think the first one comes in at around 700 pages, but it seemed pretty quick to me. But all of the characters, you've got a variety of ages and genders and social classes and ethnicities and education, smarts, power levels, and all of that plays in to each other. They all riff off each other really well. There's no one is really redundant to another, even if they have similarities. And my goodness, the layers to these characters, no one is really who they seem they are, which is kind of how people are. You know, when you get to know someone, it's like, oh, I didn't know that about you. I definitely didn't know that about you. Oh, let's go to your house. Whoa, I didn't know that about you. Like, that's very much what kind of the plot of this story is that you kind of have unreliable narrators, but you don't mind because they're very charismatic. So I would say if you haven't read it, give it a go. It's really, it's a different pace. The magic is so fun. In Lightbringer, the magic is based on light and color. And essentially, if you have the magical ability to draft, which is what it's called, if you can see a color and you're adept to that color, you pull that color inside of you and then you push it out of your body, and your imagination and will manifests it into a physical creation, whether it's a weapon, architecture, a boat, building, bombs, grenades, swords, armor. Like, you can do all sorts of stuff. You can do artwork and clothing, and it's used in everything. And something I really like about Brent's magic in this series is that he doesn't necessarily blur the line between realistic and surrealistic with fantasy and realism and logic. He blends them really, really well. Everything is rooted in logic in world. But then when you go out to create it, like what we're doing, it makes logical sense, like the physics of things and the distance of things, like the light and the timing of things. It all is very, very believable. So it's really fun to immerse yourself in. I'm having a blast doing it. So I say yes. And the music is going to be, I think, a pretty big seller. It's totally different feel from Kaladin, but it's going to be just as awesome. So I'd say, yeah. If you like Sanderson, you'd probably have fun with the Lightbringer soundtrack. I'm sorry, the Lightbringer series. I know he's also doing maybe Night Angel, which is quite a bit darker and more for adults. The first book, which is I'm only halfway through the second one, is good fun. I understand that the series gets a bit darker. So I don't know that it's for younger audiences, as wide an audience as Brandon's demographic is, but I haven't gotten there yet. But I think that's what I'm getting from Michael and others who've read it. So that's maybe a little disclaimer. It might be for adults. First book is great fun though. So
I will say that the thing that clued me in on this series in the first place was Sanderson. I would see it like all the time in different forums, and people just excited about the series and recommending it anytime anybody asked for book reads and stuff. So
we got asked to do when we were like, hey, if you guys want a soundtrack and we can't do a Sanderson one for a while, this one came up a lot.
I have also read the first book, and I'm partway through the second one. Largely because of the announcement of this, and because, so funny story, I have the whole series in hardcover that I picked up throughout the years saying, I'll binge this when it's done. I met Brent a couple years ago at Jordan Con and got them all signed, which was awesome. He was super nice, and so was his wife. And then this past Christmas, my 6-year-old went out with her uncle and was given some money to go buy presents for everyone. She went to the bookstore, wandered into the fantasy section, grabbed the biggest book she can find, and said, Mark likes big books. Let's get him this. And it was a paperback copy of the Black Prism.
Oh my gosh. Whoa.
That's
It's
awesome.
a sign.
So she got me the book, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to read it so that she can see that I'm enjoying the present she got me and stuff. And because I heard the Kickstarter was coming up, I'm really enjoying it. Basically, everything that Say Michael said resonated with me. The two little bits that I would want to add are the magic is so cool. The way he's like unveiling the layers and there's always another secret about the magic feels very Sanderson-like to me. But the one caveat I will put on it, like Say said, it's more adult. There is more sexual content in those books than you will ever find in a Brandon book.
Yeah, and there's real curse words as well in it.
Yes.
So as opposed to the Sanderson curse word.
Yeah. So y'all are doing a Kickstarter for this and making a music album. What lessons did you learn from the first one that you can or have applied to this one to make it even more awesome?
On the Kickstarter side, there's plenty to learn.
Not do it ourselves.
Not do it ourselves. That's a huge one. Yep.
Have help.
Coming up with rewards that we can, definitely deliver on and not have to spend years manufacturing and going through the process on. Planning ahead is a huge one. And we've taken a lot of time, up front on this one. Stacey's been, working on the creative side of this for a long time now. And we've also put a lot of effort into, what the different rewards and tiers are.
I think that one of the things that we're discussing right now, as we're sort of pivoting with what we've learned and what we need to do, is the crowd, the demographic for Brent's fan base. They're extremely passionate, but very quiet, and there isn't that same club family, like, you like Sanderson, you're one of us. Like, we don't need to know anything else. Like, let's get tattoos, like Bridge 4, we're instantly like, if you like Sanderson, it's like, I will help you bury the body, man. So there's that kind of energy that Sanderson fans have everywhere. And Brent Weeks' fans are very much like the author himself. He's very just happy to write his books, and not really, there aren't a lot of bells and whistles with it. So it's been a little bit of a trick trying to, gather everybody together under one like moniker to get everybody to communicate with everybody else. We've done polls and I've asked, what do people care for? Like, as far as what are your favorite scenes? What should we focus on as far as music goes, or characters who should get a little extra love or artwork? What are your favorite quotes? A lot of time we would get kind of the surface level answers with our polls, but then for me, I would get a lot of people in my inbox just direct messaging me with very personal and private stories about why and how Lightbringer and Brent's work really helped them through some very difficult times. And that's something that Sanders fans also have in common. It's just, the energy is just very different. It's something that I think his work speaks to people on a more private and deeper level, as opposed to just a soul ignition that Brandon can just like go in and unlock. Brent has that same sort of power, but it speaks to an individual. And while a lot of people seem to have a lot of the same stories and same energy about them, they start to get excited now that they're seeing something being made. And then they're like, but it takes them a little while to get excited. You mentioned Sanderson, like, and he makes $40 million on Kickstarter, you know? We had to do a little rescheduling with everything. It kind of upset things on our end. One of the main things I think that we're learning right now is because the fandom is a little tepid at first, and it's hard to figure out, okay, how do we mass market to these guys? Because they all have such individual things that they care for. And yet there's the obvious, if you've read the book, this will be an obvious thing. This will be an obvious seller. This will be an obvious scene, like Turtle Bear, which when you don't, if you have no context, sounds like the most ridiculous thing in the world. And then when you read it, you're just like, holy crap, like who would win? Turtle Bear, Kaladin would probably win. But, you know, Turtle Bear would do some damage for sure. But sweet little kid, I love him. But I would say what we're having to do this time is, rather than focusing on the book, just the book for rewards, we're focusing a bit more on our brand and our process, because as we've been doing over on Discord, we're doing, you can watch us construct the thing behind the scenes. People who've been there since December, when I started reading the books, saw me go into serious frenzies when I would go on word vomits and be like, oh, this scene means this and this and this and this, and here's my structure, and here are my notes. Here, I'll show you my notes. Here are my notes for The Way of Kings. Sorry to damage the book. I read it a lot. There's a lot in here. So sorry. Wow. But also, you know, it just means I used it a lot.
That's what books are for, especially like the mass market copies.
Right? So, you know, I'm a note keeper because I actually have no short-term memory. So I'm very much a visual, I need visual cues to kind of help me recall things. Plus I'm a filmmaker, so visuals help. So this is these are my notes for the Black Prism, and this is our battle sequence at the end. And it's, you know, broken down by character, location, magic, choreography, structure, theme, etc. Very helpful.
Wow.
But we're focusing more on the process of creating a book soundtrack. A lot of people still want to know what a book soundtrack is. So we're like, well, you know, as the words imply, it's a soundtrack. It will sound cinematic, like a game soundtrack or a movie soundtrack. It's not an audiobook soundtrack. It's not like graphic audio. It's way high up in quality because we all work in Hollywood and we're using the best that Hollywood has to offer throughout the world. That's what we did on Kaladin. That's what we're doing on this one. And it's just, we want to work with our peers, but we want music, you know, while we can't make movies, dang it, we'll put soundtracks out so that you can at least have something. I really like about the music that I've learned on the Kaladin soundtrack, talking about learning experiences. I've learned that music and books speak to the soul in very similar ways. We each experience a book on such a personal level. We imagine it like a movie in our head. And yet we're all imagining the details are so different depending on our context and our world experience and our views and everything. Those details, like, oh, I pictured this person like this. Well, that's not what that building would look like, et cetera, et cetera. I pictured the magic like this. How it makes you feel, we all feel the same. You know, like when you say Bridge 4, we know, like Bridge 4 is freaking awesome. And when you say things like Turtle Bear, it's just like, yeah, like he's a beast. And also, oh, sweet kid, layers to these characters. He's very, very good, like Brandon, extremely good at writing damaged characters and characters who have been dealt with abuse, or he doesn't really indulge in the darkness, I would say, at least in Black Prism. Haven't been there with the rest of them, but he's really good at making it believable that these people have been, you know, Kip's parents, his mother was a drug addict, and Gavin's parents, well, his dad was very overbearing and manipulative and dismissive, abusive. Sorry, I keep saying was. Pish, pish. Andros, yeah, I don't like him. He reminds me of Tywin Lannister, like that same kind of energy where it's like, you know, just a hardened man who will do what needs to be done for whatever reasons. Like he's a force to be reckoned with. The guy like sits in his own room and doesn't leave, and yet the whole empire is kind of afraid of him with good reason. So, so these characters all have presence, and how these characters deal with that. Some of them deal with humor and deflection, and other times the guilt complexes and survivor's guilt and anger. And the premise for Black Prism is that all of these characters are kind of wondering, is it better for the innocent to live or for the guilty to die? And it's usually in a heat of a moment. Which do I do? Do I save someone, or do I get the guy responsible and put an end to this? And they make a really good case. Brent makes a great case for either being very effective and justified, and yet the way that people land to their conclusions is very true to their own story. It's very well written. I really, really like how Brent has written the book.
One thing I wanted to highlight from that discussion is y'all do have a Discord server where they discuss, well, writing music and the books. And at least at the moment that I'm recording this, they're doing a read through of the Black Prism, which looks really cool. I'm a little bit sad that I'm actually ahead of that and not reading those chapters with them. And just all kinds of cool stuff. And I assume that's where you're doing these polls and so on that you've been talking about?
Yeah, we'll do them on Reddit. We'll do them on Discord. We do them on Facebook. Occasionally, we'll probably do them more as we're gearing into the Kickstarter and the construction of it. Earlier days, we would kind of just try to get a bead on people through various things.
So yeah, if you want to catch up on all the inside news and goings on, there will be a Discord invite link in the description as well. How is it different working with Team Dragonsteel and Team Weeks? Like, I know Brandon has his whole engine over here, and Brent Weeks is more him and his wife. Like, how is that different working with those two teams?
Night and day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in both scenarios, in both cases, we're abstracted from the author a bit. And we've spoken with Brandon, a handful of times, but more often than not, it's working with agents. So there's a lot of similarity there, but like you mentioned, Sanderson has a massive team, and so they're interested in getting more information about different things, and and they're also available more, for things that are needed, more quickly and that kind of thing. Whereas with Brent's team, it's definitely a bit smaller, but that makes it nice in some cases too, because they're very agreeable. I'd say they're both very agreeable, actually, but it's just I guess slightly different energies.
From my perspective, being the lead producer on Kaladin for a good chunk of it, I would say that Dragonsteel is far more hands-on with every detail. They wanted to approve every detail. It was so and I think that way too. I'm a very detail-oriented person, so it works. But they're very, very extremely forensic with the information that they wanted from us, as far as pre-approvals and sizing of fonts and where things would go and what artwork would work, what styles, etc. Brent's team is like, sure, you can do that. And we just sent them a list over of Kickstarter merch that we wanted to do. We're just like, well, let's see. Let's start with the moon. And they're like, you can't have the moon. Why is the moon on here? We're like, well, okay, so no moon. We like, can we do like a picture of the moon? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, we'll talk about we'll put the moon down for a maybe. And so we're redressing. The energy is very different from them. I think we err on the side of a little intense for them, coming from Team Dragon Steel. It's a little more like, you want to know this, right? We're giving you all this information. Like, whoa, we didn't ask for any of that. Like, okay, we'll dial it back. We'll just be over here making some music, doing cool stuff. Just say yes to everything like you've been doing. So it's cool. They're very hands off, but also very protective of Brent's time and his brand and his property. So it's just kind of learning the language and the energy. It's definitely a massive transition. They're a lot more. I don't know if lethargic is the word, but in comparison, it feels that way sometimes. They're definitely a little more chill, where Brandon's team is very much fast-paced, fast lane.
That's the process of working with the, I guess, people who make the books. Like, how is that different from the process of working with the composers and artists? And just in general, what is that process like? Is it, because I imagine it's a lot of fun to be able to say, hey, I want to hire you to help me compose this or to help me draw this and work on this official project.
Working with any creatives is always energizing and all kinds of fun. Like everyone brings their own experiences and their own talents to the thing. And, but, across the board, everyone's just always excited to work on cool stuff, and they put their heart into it. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a composer or an illustrator, there's a pride, a sense of pride in your work, and a sense of love for the things that we're doing. It takes a minute, like CJ mentioned, it takes a minute to explain to people in general, like, what's a book soundtrack? What are you doing? It seems like composers just catch on. You're like, hey, we're going to do a book soundtrack. Okay, well, what's that? Well, it's writing a soundtrack to a book. All right, I'm in. When can I start? So there's a lot of energy, a lot of love, and a lot of creativity, which is just so much fun.
From my perspective, because I deal with the creatives more, Mike, jumping on everything that Mike just said. On this particular album, what surprised me at the get-go is we're working with, we've got a bunch of new composers coming on. Our core team is very different. We still have Richard is on board for a few pieces. Sandy was on board. Maybe she'll be able to come back for a few pieces, but she's doing big things with Disney right now. So she's very willing and happy, but she's extremely busy and for great reasons. So, so we've got all these new composers, and I'm so lucky to be working with them. I'm just like, I get to direct you? That's exciting. But they feel the same way. There's this synergistic energy. And creatively, what I always ask my musicians before figuring out, okay, what song should I put you with? Are you right for the project? Do you have the right energy for the team? I always ask them, what's your musical jam these days? What's inspiring you? What kind of sounds are you wanting to do? Are you a lot of our musicians, our composers are assistants for bigger composers, and they tend to get stuck doing one or two different, kind of get pigeonholed into doing a particular type of music. So I always ask them, is there something you want to try that you haven't been able to, that you just can nail, or you want to try? Like, hit me with all of your ideas. And I had a feeling that with this book, people would be kind of fighting over certain material, and it's not that way at all. With two composers in particular, I had this guy pegged for all of these songs, and this guy pegged for all of these songs, and they were completely opposite. Because at first I was like, oh, you're feeling those songs. okay, let me make a few phone calls and see if we can make that work. And so I talked to the other composer and was like, hey, how are you feeling after you read the book? What are you feeling? He's like, I'm really liking this. I'm like, wow, okay, switchies, that's fine. Creatively and musically, everybody's kind of on the same wavelength as far as sounds and inspiration and instruments and composers and whatever things that in our own little spheres, we're all listening to the same kinds of things, or we're feeling inspired, or we want to make the certain things that are all on the same wavelength. And that just fascinates me, that creativity kind of just does that with people. There's a creative flow and we're all just sort of riding the wave, you know? And when working with individuals, there is so much heart in all of these. Everyone is so excited to be working on this. And it's just, there's just so much fun. It's a fun job, you know, like this is a great job that we've got. It's so much fun because everybody does. They're masters at their crafts and they want to get better creatively. Everybody is on the same page. And everybody is having, there's just really good energy surrounding this. And everybody puts their love into their craft, whatever that craft is, whether it's rewards, whether it's artwork, whether it's, we can't really talk about the merchandise, the rewards just yet, because we haven't gotten final approval yet, but our initial designs for things, my goodness, the amount of expertise and detail that people put into the things that they create, and that the things they create jive with what we're creating. It's so awesome. It's so fascinating to me how all of these different spheres of people and interests come together. And it's like, oh yeah, Brent Weeks. Oh yeah, Brandon Sanderson. Oh, of course, you know, and then a few people that some of the artists haven't read the books yet, but as they start, they're jiving. They understand their creativity isn't pivoting in a completely different direction. So even it's not like we're at odds creatively anywhere. So there's a lot of good symbiosis, good energy with, and I think that's going to translate into the music and into the artwork and into the rewards that we create.
One thing that I want to pick out as just something you said that I really like there is having the artists and the composers read the books. There's nothing that I hate more than seeing a cover on a book that, symbolically and marketing wise represents this book, but you know the artist
never read the book, right?
Book. Yeah. So having your artists and composers read the book just makes everything fit and mesh and be just so good.
It's not a requirement from me. On the one hand, I kind of like it when people don't read the books because then they just take my direction. You know, like they have to do what I say. It's complete.
Fair enough.
On the other hand, when people do take the initiative to read the material, they get inspired and something speaks to them. And that creativity fuels, like it just ups the game of everything. So, and I think so far everyone's reading the books. It's like, all right, I didn't even have to ask you guys.
So we've talked a lot about the Kickstarter that you're running right now for the Black Prism, and that you moved into non-Sanderson works while you're waiting to do more Sanderson stuff. And I asked my collector Discord what I should ask y'all about. And the first 3 responses were immediately, Words of Radiance? Are you going to do another one? When's the next Sanderson one coming?
Right?
So people want to know. The Sanderson community has loved this album and they want more.
That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, as soon as we get the go-ahead, we're ready.
Assuming that you do get the permission in the future, and you already answered my first question, someone asked, is the next one going to be named Shalon? And it sounds like yes. You would definitely make a Words of Radiance album named Shalon. What would you most want to adapt? And quick disclaimer here, this section is probably going to have spoilers for Words of Radiance.
Oh, from
are there any like particular scenes or moments that you'd want to capture?
I'll let Michael go first.
Yeah. I'll tell you the thing that I have burning in my soul is I want to do The Girl Who Looked Up. Like,
that's
so
an Oathbringer though.
It's Shallon, right? It's her. Like if we're doing
Yeah.
her, I mean, plus there's the two parts of it, you know, like yeah. Anyway, I had an idea some time ago to do like a charitable thing and release just like a single, but it'd be like a double, I guess. You know, because with the first the girl who looked up on one side of a vinyl, and on the other side you'd have the one from Oathbringer on the other side. I think that'd be really cool.
Okay.
I have in my head this image in Words of Radiance. If I were shooting the movie, you know, just as the horns are sounding and Bridge 4 is about to go, they've got their armor, and Kaladin's about to do his thing in front of 2,000 bridgemen and take on all the arrows. I can just see him like packing up all of their necessities and seeing this flute and just being like, like throwing it away. You know, so when he's in prison and Kaladin, like Hoid is like, you lost my flute, and just have that flashback of him like, lost. Yes, I lost it. Was it valuable? Like, this is a little humorous thing, like, because like really, what would he do with that thing? You know, where would he put it? For me, I've got a couple in I have to here's my confession, everyone. Rashid, you know who you are. He's a fellow Sanderson fan. He's a big Shallon fan, and I am not. I'm sorry. I don't really care for Shallon all that much. I have a hard time reading her. And I've discovered, as I was putting a playlist together for her, her music helped me get to know her better. And it made her more palatable to spend time with. It helped me understand some of the nuances and the depth and the subtext with what's going on with her, where things about her that I may not care for, the reality of the things that she's dealing with, her music is gonna be gorgeous. The feeling, the sound on the Shallon album, I call it Shallon, sorry, we can all say how we want. I don't listen to the audiobooks, so I don't say Shallon, but the music is gonna sound a little bit more Danny Elfman, Max Richter, very dark, whimsy fantasy. Beautiful stuff. Some sadness in there. Super excited about She Smiled Anyways. There's that scene, those scenes down in the chasm, they're so dark between Kaladin and Shallon. But in that moment when he sees sort of through her eyes and she's smiling and she's just exploring the beauty of the cave, suddenly these dark chasms that are filled with, you know, training and drowning and dead bodies, and they're in a dire circumstance. There's this beast hunting them. They're starving. He's wounded. Like, it's so dire. And she's just, suddenly you see life spread everywhere. And she, with her being there, you see the beauty and the of where they are. And I think that's the moment that he's just like, I'm done. Hello. You know, and I really want to make that scene, that music to me is very clear. It's beautiful. And that's never occurred to me until I found the music for it, that scene would actually be gorgeous to listen to. It really changes how you experience the read. Obviously, Honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do. Like, give me that arena scene. Like, that's happening. The scene where they're Kaladin and Seth first engage in that tower, in that hallway, and Kaladin gets wounded. Like, there's a lot there. I am there for that. I am so excited to bring Seth's sounds with Kaladin's sounds, and every album will have progression. It's not going to be redundant from the album before. It's all going to sound a little bit different, even though we're drawing on same themes and same instruments. It's going to evolve as the story does, as the location does. And there's so much in there I really want to explore. But those are some of the ones that I'm really excited about. I'm kind of excited about the that moment of vulnerability and beauty within the chasm where he kind of falls in love. You know, there's been a little bit of a crush with Kaladin and Shallan, but there's that moment where she smiled anyway, and it's just, you know, there's something that's just like settles into place and opens up, and I'm really excited about that. The scene where they're hovering in the chasm, and she is remembering, to me, is also quite beautiful. It's a sad song. In my head, it's not what you would think as she's remembering the darker things she's remembering. It's more about what's going on with her internally as she's recalling these things. The loss of that moment, the realism, the reality of what happened, and looking at it from an adult size. You know, there's water coming up, water coming down, an arm is around her, and yet she still feels very much alone. And there's something really beautiful about that. I'm excited about the veil reveal. I mean, give me a break, man. There's so much in Words of Radiance. I want to do everything. Of course, I don't do it all, but those are scenes that are like her walking through. I have this, I don't know if it happens in the book or if she's like practicing in front of a mirror, trying to become Veil for the first time before she goes out. And I have this scene where she's kind of trying it. And then as she figures it out, the music sort of swells and falls into place. And then there's just this reveal. You can kind of picture a wide shot of mist of this woman walking in a duster, and just, you know, clearly it's Shallan. It's a hero moment, you know, the hero slow walk. And Kaladin could be off to the side and just, you know, have a double take and just notice, but he doesn't know who she is. He just notices her. But it's about her, you know, that's a cool reveal that's going to have some pretty sweet music. Man, there's so much. It'd be fun to do Dalinar and Navani as well, to play around with them a bit. Can't remember. I know Seth has got some crap going on. Taravangian's music is going to be, I am Michael's face. You are who I have pegged for Taravangian. It's just
yes,
elevated and mental and very smart.
I mean, the second you said his name, I've got all the stuff going on in my
all
mind.
the stuff. I know you're the guy for that one. So like that has your style, one of your styles all over it. His stuff is gonna be fun and wicked and very smart music, just very, very smart. So trying to figure out which song would be my King's Wit song, the one that sort of breaks genre. I haven't decided yet. I know which one it's going to be on Oathbringer, but haven't decided yet on Words of Radiance. I need to look at it again and see if it's appropriate. I'm not going to do it just as a joke if it doesn't need to be, but Horn Eater White, man, I can't wait to write that scene.
That's a lot of really exciting scenes in there.
Yeah.
You have to ask, are you going to give a song to the best character in the Cosmere? I Am a Stick.
That could be your joke scene. Your joke
scene. Know, we should give an RLQ to Stick. It would be so fun to do a bonus track. I now have ideas. I have ideas. Ideas are happening. I have not thought about that. Stick is happening. Oh my gosh. Also, I may have already mapped out all of List's her interlude. It's done. And boy, if you don't like her, you're gonna like her music.
She's one of my favorites.
I like her too, but her music, that just what goes on with it, it's fun, it's kitschy, and then it's dramatic, and then it's That's one. That's the one. That's the King's Wit one, because that one breaks genre a bit. I'm very excited for Lift's music. So I don't think I've told Mike what I had intended for it yet. Maybe I have. But
we've talked about a few different things at one point, and this is probably long past. At one point, I think ska was mentioned.
You mentioned ska.
I did not. No. It was.
I
think it was a fan. I think a fan mentioned it.
It's not
and we like considered it for like 5 seconds and thought it would be a cool idea. But
I'm listening to Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah, that's exactly what you came with later. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Along with Two Steps from Hell and like Pirates of the Caribbean and The Mask of Zorro. Kind of a little bit of everything, and something for what's his face? Nail. I'm really excited about introducing his character and just how, committed he is to his course, and starting that. And then the scene where, the Panache becomes is that his name? Panache? You know what happens to him, like Nail, gets him and Lift in front of everyone, like heals the dude. That scene, that whole scene. What?
Gawx, G-A-W-X.
Yes, G-A-U-X.
I think it's G-A-W.
W. I think you're right. W. Gawx. That whole scene, from her sneaking in and just wanting food, and it being a little silly to this guy coming in, and her, like, once she eats and starts sliding around, she's clumsy, it's entertaining, and high energy. And then it gets real quick, as Sanderson does, and gets very dark, and then gets very light and powerful and just beautiful. And we'll see a glimpse of that beauty and that power that Lift has about her, where she really can get to people and just get to the heart of things in a way that others can't. And I want to touch on that and make it just inspiring. I know exactly even if you don't like reading her, the music should be great to listen to. Like it should match the energy of what's going on. I'm very excited about that one.
Yeah, that sounds so exciting.
Right?
So with Lift and Nail, would Edge Dancer be tied in with Words of Radiance, or would that be tied in with Oathbringer, or is that just like a little extra, or?
I'd do it by itself. Would you, Michael? We haven't talked about it, but it's by itself.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it'd be fun to have like a little mini album. Just that. Same with what was the other one?
Dawn Shard.
I
haven't read it yet, but yeah, for sure. There's so much in there. You don't realize how, like, each of these scenes can have, they all have music, and they all have themes, and they all build in, and just
honestly,
the music.
And honestly, like The Way of Kings, we could have done like 10 albums just on that book alone. You pull all of these different things out, and if you're just talking about like Dawn Shard or the other one, like it's its own story. Like an album.
That's the main set of questions that I wanted to ask y'all today. I just have a couple little fun questions to wrap up. One, do either of y'all have any cool Sanderson collectibles? The one that I have from y'all is the page here from the Wonder Sale score. And I see, say, you've got the Kaladin art on the wall behind you, which is super awesome. But do you have any, like, I am the Sanderson Collector channel. Do you have any cool collectibles you want to talk about or show off?
Do you, Michael?
I mean, as you can see right here in the back of my room.
You're very real, legitimate.
Isaac sent me a signed map some time ago. I need to put it up. Yeah.
Neat.
But
I mean, he did use your music for his time lapse. So
Oh, cool.
You two are like besties.
But I mean, other than that, not really, because I'll listen to everything. I've got all of the books and stuff on audio, so
Right.
nothing physical. Well, I guess I have Doomslug sitting up there.
I love Doomslug.
What do I have? I have a few things. Nothing. I have like I have some stuff from Skyward. I have a Doomslug as well.
Mm.
A little pin from Skyward.
I guess all of your sticky noted books are kind of your collectibles because you've read them so much.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of Sanderson things. I know that one thing that means a lot to me is my Oathbringer book, which I don't know where it was right here, and I cleaned off my desk. But he signed it for me, and it was one of those days I was in my wheelchair, which I haven't been in 2 years. Yay! But it was difficult for me to get to the signing and to touch base with him. But I wanted to be there and show support, and it was very nice of him to just kind of let me cut in line. And he took one look at me and then just wrote, one of his sayings. And at the time I didn't know what it meant, but he wrote, "You cannot have my pain." And it was really very meaningful. He's got some good intuition, when he looks at people. And we had, I tagged him at a signing. One of our fans out in India wanted a copy of Oathbringer, and he couldn't get his hands on one because it's so expensive and it's not printed over there. And I was talking to him on Twitter, and he said his little brother reminds him of Renorant, and he reminds himself of Adeline with their relationship. And so I told Brent, sorry, not Brent, Brandon, these things. I tagged him, like, this isn't for me. This is for a fan. Here's what I know. And he went, okay. And he wrote something in it, and I don't know what he wrote. And like, it's not for me. That's for him. But I have a feeling that it lands. He has a good way of connecting with his fans. So we have our flute. We have from our stuff. We have like Kaladin swag. Have you seen the flute?
Yeah. Don't think I've seen it, but yeah, Kaladin swag is absolutely Sanderson collectibles.
I have a small version of our album that the three of us collected. I didn't get one where Brandon signed it. I didn't get one with his signature. I'm super bummed about that. That was from our release party, Navani, by Kelly Harris.
Yes.
Kelly
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's amazing. I just kept a bunch of stuff from our release party. Like, I want it, I like it.
That's awesome.
But here is our flute that we had custom made. The reason we had it custom made was because as we went to read the book and we were like, okay, what flute should we use? It didn't exist, basically. So we're like, okay. But we had all of this custom made by a leather worker. He took me down to a tannery, and I got to pick out the leather and tell him, like we talked about, what kind of stitching it would use. This is way too big, by the way, for what would be used as a prop in the movie. This is way too big. It's, I believe he mentions it's about the size of his forearm, just a small, like the size of a penny flute, and I figure it would be smaller, but for the depths and the sounds that he creates, like, it doesn't work that way. So we had about 13 of these custom made by a man named Eric. They are patterned after an Egyptian flute, but we had them done in a different key, a specific key that would work with the song that we wrote. And it's made out of bamboo, and he stained it. I wished it had been a bit darker to match it with the description in the book, because it definitely is more of an ebony look than anything else. I cannot play the flute to save my life, so it doesn't really work for me. But we had the top ethnic flautist in the studio, and he played all 13 of these. So if you have one, we can't say who it is just because of guild rules. He was really cool to work with us, but budget wise and things, it would have cost more if we wanted to credit him, and he was cool, like, no, just come in, we'll do the sound, and, you know, let's do it, let's jam. And he was professional. But if you've seen any fantasy movie and there's a flute, that's the guy. And we were very lucky. I know Michael really wanted to work with him. So
wow.
So this is the flute. And then something I got from Shire Post Mint that was doing something around the same time that we were doing. They do coins.
Yes.
I'm sure you know who they are.
Yes, I have all of the coins.
All the coins. So so do I. This is one of the first times. I don't usually nerd out and like splash out on swag and stuff, but man, my inner child is just like awakening these last few years, and I want all the things. So I don't have a big collection of stuff, but I will. Hashtag goals. Anyways, I love their little bag and all their little coins from Mistborn. I have the big key ring from Fairy Tale, but that's not Sanderson.
Before I wrap it up, are there any questions that you want me to ask, or any topics that you think I've missed?
I think you did a really good job about our Kickstarter. Obviously, the Black Prism is a pivot from all things Sanderson, but we're still putting all the love into that. And as we're actually, to be honest, a little nervous about the budget is so astronomically high, and we barely made it, even with the Sanderson crew and the Sanderson name and the fandom behind us, and we're nervous about making it. You know, and there's so many layers. It's a very expensive album to make. Just the way it's constructed is so different from Brandon's books that you can't make it the same way. So I don't know. We need as much support as we can possibly give, and we're trying to make it so that you feel rewarded. You know, that you feel like, one, that you're part of something, and that you do feel, I don't know how to put it. I'm running out of words, but we definitely need support, and we are building that sort of same energy with our brand that we had on our Kaladin soundtrack, because we're Sander fans. We have that same energy that all Sanderson fans have. And I think we're sort of bleeding that energy over into the Weeks fandom, like, come hither. So I don't know how we get everybody to join. I think you've done a really comprehensive job of just covering everything. It was super fun. I don't want to like hang out with you forever. It's so fun just chilling and talking and all the things.
Yeah, this was a blast. Unfortunately, I think my partner would kill me if I tried to sit here for too much longer. She's been messaging me like, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet?"
Right. Thank you for us.
Thank you for taking the time.
Tell her
really grateful to you.
Thank you to both of y'all for taking the time and making this work into y'all's schedules. Guess just to wrap up, I told you that the Collectors Guild and I'm going to be there in November. Is there any chance that I'll see y'all at the next Dragonsteel convention?
Possibly.
Sure, so. Yeah.
Possibly, because he does them in Utah, right?
Yep.
I'm in Utah, so I'm super high risk. Before the pandemic came out, I couldn't get a cold, and I was already kind of living in lockdown. So cold and flu season is one of my. If I have to go out, I will. Like at Sundance, if I have to, I'll go to Sundance. Same with Sanderson's things. Like if I have to, I will. During those months, just because it's so like I have to choose. Like, am I healthy enough to do this? But I am getting stronger. I'd like to go. I think it's going to be a thing. I thought he was doing that just as a pandemic thing, but I think he's going to be repeating that now. So
for sure.
Yeah. I'd love if you're going to be there and a few others. I think it would be good just to catch up and see people like real people in real life. That's the thing.
Yeah, I would love that. So hopefully I'll see y'all there. If not, I'll see y'all around Discord. And that's everything for the interview this week. Thank you so much to Say and Michael for taking the time to chat with me and tell me about their awesome plans. And I will see y'all next week with something else talking about Brandon books. I don't remember what, but I'll see y'all then. And until then, happy collecting.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
See ya.